Hi, everybody, and welcome to what we'll call a bonus edition of Inside Furman Athletics. You get two this week. I am Dan Scott, and this is. Do I even need to introduce this guy? I mean, he has been, I'm sure, the one person on this campus that Furman sports fans have wanted to hear from more than any other. And we didn't have to pay him anything to get him in here to talk to us today. Bob, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good. That's probably not the right joke to make at this time, but everything going well, family good, all the important stuff good?
Yeah, we're good. It's wide open. We got players here, and this was the Final Four weekend, so typically we have our coaches convention out at the Final Four, Thursday to Saturday. And, most of our staff has been out there. I stayed back just to get a little bit of time with the family and, got a few staff spots open that we're filling and obviously some recruiting needs as well. So this used to be a little bit of a quote-unquote break. I think it's pretty funny. The NCAA gave us a quote-unquote dead period, but you can still contact by phone, and by text, and, it's pretty wide open right now. So, we're full steam ahead, and got a lot of good things going on. Timmons is basically gutted right now. It's been pretty neat to walk in there and just see, how much they've already gotten out of there in a short amount of time. And our players here are working really, really hard, and have been extremely proud of, their response this spring and their connection. And we've had a great spirit, a great attitude in the gym. Guys are getting better, and I got workouts this afternoon, so looking forward to getting out there.
Well, it's good to hear the positivity, the confidence, the optimism you have, because with this program and with a lot of what's going on in the state of college basketball right now, while there's excitement with the Final Four, and as we're recording this on Monday, the national championship game coming up tonight, I know there's a lot of concern among coaches. There's a lot of concern among fans. So, I mean, let's not dodge it. Let's jump right into it. This has been a program that has, even in this age of NIL as it's come on, has been able to keep players, maintain what you're trying to do, program building, and now for the first time, you've really been hit. 4 players gone. Just take it from there and kind of address what's happening and how things are with your program.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've definitely been fortunate in the past to have players that have stayed, and that they've been well documented what those players, their decisions to stay and what ended up becoming of that. And we've built this program on the idea of connection, and we've built this program on the idea of perspective, that we're going to use this, that basketball is a means to an end. And we're going to use this to develop them as people and to prepare them for what's at life. And, at the same time, we're going to go out there and put a competitive product on the court and try to go win championships. And, and then all of a sudden the landscape has shifted. The landscape has shifted to my greatest fear in this, that a profession that I've really attached a lot of purpose in my life to because of the opportunity to be transformational. My fear is this is becoming very transactional very quickly. Mm-hmm. And, the easy thing to do is to partake in the transactions of it and to get caught up in the transactions of it and to lose sight of what I feel like my ultimate purpose is as a person, as a coach, to be a leader, to be a leader of men, to really put, a program in place that stands for values. And, one thing I'll tell you is I've always led. I've always been a believer that values aren't values until they're tested. And right now, our values have been tested, and we have to decide in something where everybody's telling us that we have to change, what does that look like? Do we abandon values? Do we become fully transactional? Or do we stay stubborn and convicted that there are still people out there that want the transformation of a Furman degree, that wants the transformation of being in a program that values connection and being great teammates and playing for one another, and in being put in a further man program that allows them to be connected in a network and build their ability to go impact the world quicker. And, do we have to just sell out to that and get away from all that? or is there a situation where we can realign a little bit and figure out, hey, how do we how we're able to get players now is going to be a little different. Okay, the NIL piece of this is real. Okay, we thought for a while that we could, just act like, well, that's those schools, that this isn't real. Okay, and I think it's a little bit interesting and a little bit comical when people say it's not about the money. The money has impacted this greatly, and nobody wants to admit that, right? Because that would make it completely an admittance of transactional processing. But the money has changed this, and you're not talking about $20,000. Okay, you're not talking about $50,000. You're talking about right now an SEC starter on the transfer market is going for 250 minimum. Okay, up to four, and sometimes if you're going high to high transfer, you're talking about $500,000. There was a mid-major to high transfer that's been documented recently at a Big Ten school for $700,000. Right, you're talking about a large amount of money. And so, how long is this sustainable? I have no idea, right? But this has exponentially grown quickly. In this year, it feels twice as much as what it was last year, and then last year felt twice as much as it was the year before. And then you also have the portal, right? And the portal is, I think, around 1,300 kids right now. If I look at it right now and then I look at it tonight, there'll be 40 more. You'd think it would be slowing down. It's not slowing down at all. And basically, the grass is always greener, right? There's always a different situation. There's a better situation, and there's no sit out. They said when they started all this that it was going to be a one-time exception. Well, now that's not the case anymore, right? They basically pulled that off during the season. And so now you can basically go in there as many times as you want. We're calling on some players right now. I mean, it's fourth school, right? Like, and you don't always know this until you get on the phone and you figure it out. But now it's easy to move. And so since you have so much movement, and it all starts at the top, it all trickles down, right? So, you're talking to Power 5 head coaches that have told me, I've got 10 spots open. I've got 9 spots open. I've got 8 spots open. Okay, well, there's that much at the top with all these spots open, then you have all that money that's associated with these spots open, and then now all of a sudden they're not going to go sign a high school player in the spring. They're going to get a proven commodity, and now you have these analytic companies that are sending out spreadsheets that you can sort out, and everybody has a number, and then everybody subscribed to this service. So this is how transactional this is getting. I've asked 25 high major head coaches if they've watched film on the prospects they're going after. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've had 3 tell me yes. But and basically they're saying, hey, it's too much to filter, right? Like it's too fast.
Right.
We're going off of a cut up, right? We're going off of something really quick. We can't manage all this. There's no way to get to the film on all this stuff. So this company is sending out these analytics, and everybody has a grade. And so you have an 81, or I have a 75. And then that's becoming like gospel. Like people are literally making their recruiting boards based on these grades, almost like this is like Madden, like the Xbox games or whatever it is. So now all of a sudden you're slotted, right? Like if you're 90 or above, you're a high major impact guy. If you're 80 or above, you're deemed a high major starter, right? If you're in the 70s, you're a high major backup, but you're a mid major starter. If you're in the 60s, you're now it just goes down, right? You're low major backup, mid major starter, whatever. And so now you're looking at this and you're like, oh, he's a 67. And well, then how much is he getting offered? And you basically got to pay for play structure that, it does you no good by being bitter about it. It does you no good by getting frustrated about it. You got to figure out how to adapt where you are, and that's where I've tried to take some time away from this. And everything for me starts with my faith and just believing that, hey, storms are real, and when you encounter them, it always feels painful when you go in it, but the grass is always greener and the trees are always bigger on the other side of it. But you got to sit in it, and you got to figure out, like, what am I being taught right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where am I being challenged right now? And the most reassuring thing that I've told our players, our staff, is this program's been standing steady for a while, and I love everybody that's been a part of this program, and I support the players that are here. I support the players that are making their decisions to leave. Like that's what you have to do in this day and age, right? Like you have to accept a certain level of transaction and transferring that's not going to stop, and you got to be willing to support it. But at the same time, when you look back on our program, you've got to look and you got to see what built it, what were those values that built it, and then how can we stay strong in that. But at the same time, we're going to have to adapt a little bit. We're going to have to adapt. And, so my thing right now is it's never been harder to keep players. We're in a recruiting battle right now for a player. And for the sake of it, I'm going to leave the names of the schools off, okay? But I'm going to give you the profiles, all right? He's down to 3, all right? All 3 of these teams are at the mid-major level. If you profiled their coaches, the other 2, and then obviously we know how we play, you're going to say, hey, great ball movement. These guys are about the right things. They play the game the right way. All 3 schools have won a tournament game in the last 7 years. All 3. Mm-hmm. Not just going to the tournament. Won a tournament game, okay? I'm talking to the recruit last night, and I'm like, we're talking about all this. And it kind of hits me. It's like, well, okay, we got guys in the portal. Well, man, they had 3 all-conference players. All 3 got in the portal. So I look up on that database, and that team has 5 in. When I look at the other team, they got 5 in. I'm like, what is going on? I'm talking like 3 programs that have had NCAA tournament success, run great programs, and it's just, this is systemic, right? Like this is not something. And what's wild is we all the head coaches, we all talk to each other in this stuff. There's not a high major head coach I haven't talked to that's like, hey, this is absolutely insanity. But we all have to deal with it, right? They have to deal with it in the way they deal with it. We have to deal with it in the way we deal with it. And so the ones that are going to fall by the wayside are the ones that sit around and complain about it, right? Because it's not stopping. There's no way to put the toothpaste back in the bottle, right? Like it's out. Okay, so it is what it is at this point. So at the end of the day, we've got to figure out how do we adapt in this space. And look, if this was isolated to us, I'd be a lot more nervous. Like you look at the all-conference list, basically everybody on the all-conference list, maybe outside of one guy right now that I can think of, I don't have it in front of me, that has not transferred before, that is all-conference, has transferred. The main ones that have not transferred are the ones that have transferred in already, right? Like, and you say, well, they've already transferred. Well, no, you can multi-transfer now, so that's not the reason. Like they've been through it a little bit, like, and so when you look at it, it's like you're just going to see this landscape. Like they're going to have the high majors, and they're not really quiet about it, like. They're going to do what they have to do, and they're going to be able to provide more resources than we provide, right? That's clear, and that's something you can't counter. But it's something where you just got to accept it. And, I think for us, like, hey, if this is going to be a food chain situation, which is basically what it's become, then we got to go find the situations where we sift through this portal in a manner that we don't lose identity, we don't lose who we are. We find people that still want those things that we built this program on. Probably double down on it more, just being frank. Probably double down on it more. Find 3 or 4 or 5 guys that you feel like that align with it, and then you're going to have to go. You're going to have to go to where that hey, they want the resources that we have, and so you're going to have to go now to Division II, and you're going to have to go to low majors and. Or you're going to a high major that's not playing much, right? That might not have film that hopefully you recruited in high school and the family, the people, and they align with your values, and you say, hey, come and do it here. And so, look, the game tonight, I think I looked at it this weekend, 65% of UConn scoring was out the door last year. They're back in the national championship, We've had 2 other times, everybody thinks the world's falling apart here. We've had 2 other times in our tenure where we've lost over 50% of our scoring. And the first one was after my first year, and I think we won our first 12 games in a row, and everybody had kind of pushed that team to the side because we lost all those scores. And we won 12 in a row. We got ranked. We won 25 games, which was a school record. The second time was after the COVID year, and we lost 2 all-conference players, and we lost over 50% of our scoring. And that was the first time. That next year was the first time we made it to a championship game, and then lost at the buzzer to Chattanooga, and won 22 games. And so, I'm going to keep leading in the way that we know what works here, and I'm going to choose not to be disgruntled or resent it or be bitter about it. I think that I've had a very fun, enjoyable career, and I get to do what I love to do, but it has not been without challenge.
Right.
And we just got to keep pressing forward.
So the frustration, I would think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, the frustration among frustrations is what is, I think, becoming obvious, that you can stick to your values, you can do everything you said, you can get players, you can develop them and have success with them, and then watch them leave. And that's got to be a high level of frustration. So you've had to deal with it really for the first time this year. How are you dealing with that?
Well, I'll tell you this, funny story. I'll leave his name out as well, but I had a Final Four coach tell me on the phone directly, and I'll change the language a little bit, but he basically told me I was double whammied. He said, because at the end of the day, I'm going to go tell my guys, my assistants, I'm going to go tell them to take your players, because I know the culture they've been in. I know what they've been taught. I know how they play. I know the values. I know the winning. Like, we don't have a lot of time here. We're getting this player for 1 year, okay? So let's go make sure they come from a program that is run in a manner that we're not going to have to retrain them, that they're used to winning, they're used to culture, and we're like putting a premium on that. He literally is on the phone telling me this.
Right.
And
it's almost like you're becoming a minor league feeder system.
And so you look at it and you're like, okay, now when they get with the kid, they're not going to tell them that. You know what I mean? Like, they're not. It's like when I ask them, hey, what role do you see? What do you need him to do? That answer is probably going to be a little bit more vague, right? Hey, we need him to do this, we need him to do this. But like, at the end of the day, they're going to target, when going back to that example of those 3 schools,
right?
They're going to target that. And so, again, you always have 2 choices in life. You can get bitter, or you can try to get better. And you know what? Like, when I go into court this afternoon with our players, I'm not going to sit there and be like, well, you know what? We don't want to develop them as well because, somebody's going to take them from us. I'm just going to keep saying, hey, that's a compliment. And then what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to repackage this in recruiting, and we're going to have to start showing these people, hey, here's what they had coming out of high school. Here's their production, and here's where they ended up going. And we can do the same thing with you. And, then players and families are going to have to make decisions. Do they want to see it out? And, it's look, I don't know all the right answers. I think we'll have a lot more data in the next, 5-6 years. I think, you look at the data. I've looked at it all spring because I want to make sure I'm advising correctly. I don't want to be the person that's like right in the middle of it and can't see, the clarity of this. I get the resources and I understand how the resource gap and how real that is. But there's also some concerns in it. And, like you see different situations. Pavlovsky has a great year at Wofford, goes to Iowa State, and he, didn't play as much as he wanted. He's back in the portal. Now you see Dalton at Tennessee, and you're like, man, Northern Colorado. Well, man, look, there's 2 guys on draft boards right now, only 2 that went mid to high, and it's Dalton at Tennessee, and then it's Shireman at Creighton. Well, you got 2 guys that have positional size at those levels and have unbelievable shots, right? And those are the 2 that are on the draft boards. And, I think those are the things that you got to keep looking and saying, okay, if this makes sense, then you got to grow with it, right? You got to go with it. But then you also have to look at it and you got to figure out, like, what does this mean for us? Does this mean that we go all portal? Does this mean we don't care about development anymore? Does this mean that we don't go for high school kids anymore? I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think in this situation, we're going to have to do more portal right now than we have, because the 4 that we're losing were all guys with 1 year left. And so, I've known this ever since I was an assistant at Charleston Southern. Like, you want to be any good, like, be old and be deep. Like those two things. Like, you got to get old and you got to get deep. And so, I'm just gonna continue to do what I've done my whole career. There's nothing that's been given to us. We've been here the same amount of years.
Right.
We all know what this looked like when we got here, and now I get to walk around and they're gutting out an arena that nobody ever thought we'd get done, and that's getting done. We still have had. You start looking at the success that our players have created, and to see, my son staying up last night to watch Slauson's, semifinal game in the G League, and to see him go for 26 last night, to see his growth, and that's what we're going to have to continue to figure out. Like, hey, and this is what I'm talking about recruits right now, is I need you to tell me what your desired ROI is in a year. Like, what do you want your return on investment to be? And that's where we're going to have to align with it. And we're going to have to figure out, like, how does that line up with basically what we have to offer? Because at the end of the day, this is going to be Furman, and this is going to be, we're going to have to be reasonable and rational in what we're able to provide. And then we're going to have to find players that say, hey, you know what? I want everything that comes with this. And, man, I'm grateful for whatever resources you can give me over here. Let's go try to be the best possible team we can be. And let's go play together, and let's go do this in proper perspective, in a way where we can connect, in a way where we can continue to improve together, and then let's go see what happens.
Visiting with Bob Richey on a bonus edition of Inside Furman Athletics. So, having said all of that, you've got 4 roster spots to fill. And we know every year there's maybe 1 or 2 things that happen. That's the nature of college athletics anyway, but you've got 4. I know you can't talk in specifics of names, but how's the process of filling those spots going?
I'm going to back up first.
Okay.
And I'm going to discuss something which really has frustrated me a little bit, as I've had to listen to how many players we've had leaving.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's been a little disrespectful to the guys that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And, we got some guys in that locker room that care greatly. And you can say, well, they, okay, well, they didn't score as many points or what. Like, listen, we got a lot of guys that they can still get in that portal, and they can have a lot of options.
Right.
That's just how it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's borderline incredible. But most people, and this is where, again, going back to understanding the whole context of the situation, most people are having guys in the portal and graduates. So now you're having these schools that have 7, 8, 9, 10 options open, right? We didn't have any guys that didn't have any eligibility left. So we've lost the 4 in the portal, but then we've had everybody else back. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have workouts today with way more players in the gym than most places have right now. And I feel like that's getting lost in a little bit of this. Like, it's always been about growing and developing here, and the old taking care of the young. And it's been a progression that you can see, right? It's been, Mike Bothwell and Jalen Slauson didn't play hardly any as freshmen. Mike played a little bit more in Slaw. And then all of a sudden you see growth, right? And then all of a sudden they're the guy. But when they first got here, it was Matt Rafferty and Jordan Lyons, and then it was Clay Mounce, and then it was Noah Gurley. And it's always been a progression, and it's always been a situation where it's old taking care of the young, and then, oh, man, where'd he come from? And, right now, these guys have been over there. P.J. Smith has been phenomenal this spring in workouts. And I told him, I told his parents, this is an incredible opportunity for you. It's the same conversation I had with Slauson. When Noah decided to transfer, he told me out here, he was like, what? He looked at me in the face. And he's like, man, what do you think? Like, what are we going to do? And I looked at him and I said, man, you just had the best day of your career. Like, this is not obstacle. This is opportunity. And you're going from, basically the second option in our front court to our first option. What are you going to do with it? Like, this has to be motivating for you.
Right.
And at that point in time, Slauson was a third-year starter or second-year starter after his third year. And I think if you look back on that COVID team, you got Alex Hunter, you got Mike Bothwell, you got Clay Mouse, Jalen Slauson, and Noah Gurley. I think if you went through that 5 on that team, you would probably say Slauson was the fifth on the bus there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like obviously that year, Mike, Clay, and Noah were all league. So now you're down to 2 other great players. But I'm talking about on that team, right?
Right.
You'd still probably say Alex was next, and then you'd probably say, you know, then you have Slauson. So he's coming to me saying, what does this mean? Well, it means you have an unbelievable opportunity. And that's the wild part in some of this stuff is like, that's how we've always thought for years, you know, like, hey, when something opens up, like, there's my opportunity, let me go chase it. Now it's like, oh, man, what's going on? Like, just go put your head down and work, right? Like, the guy that said what's going to happen is the only guy since 1984 that's been drafted around here, okay? Like, that's the facts. And that's not, we don't have to argue that. We don't have to get on Twitter for that. Like, that is the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he was the 5th option on that team. We had a guy leave. Jalen Slauson becomes Defensive Player of the Year the next year, leads the team to the first championship game in this century that we were supposed to be in it as the 1 or the 2 seed.
Right.
Okay, and then gets a concussion late in the game that if he's in there, maybe the shot doesn't get off. Who knows? It's all a mystery. But then he decides to come back and becomes Player of the Year in the league and gets drafted in the draft, right? And, like, I think those are the things where PJ is like, hey, listen, now you get to go be a little bit more point. That's what you want to do. Like, that's what you did at Lee. Hey, ball in your hand, like, go. And, man, I've just been infusing him with confidence this spring. Just, like, go. And it's like, oh, wow, I get to take these shots, right? Like, yes, go, right? Like, Garrett Heen is still in the gym, right? You can say what you want about Garrett Heen. That boy loves Furman. He bleeds purple. He started on arguably the best team in school history, if not one of the 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not a backup, starter, right? Cooper Bowser, I mean, if he wants to be a pro, he's going to be a pro, right? If that's what he wants to do, like if he wants to commit the time and the energy and the work, put himself in a position to be a primary guy, and to continue to get better and to stay humble through the process, he's going to be a pro. He's going to make a lot of money playing this game. He's still there. Tyrese Huey is still there. Tyrese Huey has not had an offseason since he's been here, basically. Okay, he's had 2 hip surgeries that took up both summers, and we know how critical that is for what we do.
Right.
He gets his summer. Ben Vanderwall, he did everything he possibly could this year to deal with absolute, we all saw it, okay? Like, this was not the most connected team we've had in our time here, okay? We all saw that, okay? The boy did everything he possibly could to try to fight for connection and try to fight for culture and to put his heart into getting every inch out of his ability he possibly could. And the kid's over there working his absolute tail off. Edrin, people have no idea how good he is. No idea how much better he's gotten. No idea the chip that he's got on his shoulder. Tommy Humphreys, I mean, same thing, right? Like, Tommy is just continuing to work. Davis Molnar, like, we had competition Friday last week. I mean, he looked phenomenal out there, you know, and he should have a chip on his shoulder, right? Like, all these guys should have a chip on their shoulder. And I think, you know, for me, like, the biggest thing, there's always 3 groups of people in this, and it's never been more real, okay? Who are you losing, and who do you have back, right? If you want to sustain winning, it's always that 3rd group. Who's in the middle of those 2?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to know who you're losing, and then everybody wants to know who you have back. But if you want to be great, that middle group has to continue to get better. And that's what I'm most excited about. And that's what I've told those guys. Like, we've got to keep getting you guys better. And we've got plenty in this room right now. And opportunity is going up across the board. Now, recruiting, yes, we got to fill in around it. There's no doubt about it. Okay. I'm pretty sure, going back to development, Klingen's a lot of fun to watch. I love it. I can't wait for the game tonight, even though it's a little late. I don't think we were hearing a ton about him last year, right? Like, we were hearing a little bit about him last year. But he got his opportunity this year, and now you see what he's doing with it. That UConn team last year was different, okay? So we're going to have some guys that are going to rise up through this, and they're going to be able to look back on that and say, hey, I took advantage of my opportunity. Recruiting, there's 3 things we got to get. We've got to find people that are about the mission of the team, and we got to find people that want to be about the team, and it's never been harder to evaluate that. Everybody knows what to say. You got to watch what they do, and you got to make sure that at the end of the day, they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves that lasts longer than themselves, and they got to find perspective in this. And we got to find guys that are obsessed with winning. We've got to address the shooting issue. Look, we finished 5th this year. I'd probably be a little bit more disappointed had we gone to the tournament and lost, and we had the, like, we finished 5th. It's the lowest we finished in 7 years.
Right.
There's things that need to be fixed, and shooting is one of them. Right. It's the lowest percentage of my tenure here. It's a deal where, and this is all my fault, we didn't take the quality of look that we needed to consistently enough in the year. It's something we battled. It's something that we tried really, really hard to do better at. We got to get a better understanding of quality of shot, and our assist numbers were the lowest of my time. We ran the same system. Ball didn't move as freely, okay? So we've got to get players that we can have a competitive chip, right, that align with what our mission and our values are at Furman, that understand winning, that can make shots, and that understand ball movement and value playing together as a team. And if we feel a sense of any curve of that, we got to have the courage to walk away. And we just got to, you pull up all this stuff, like just watching the Dan Hurley stuff and just watching and listening to the interviews and just, the value of team, it's always going to be the separator. And so we're trying to basically look, we can take one of everything. And we've got one commitment already that I'm really, really excited about, that will definitely address some of the shooting situations. His shooting is phenomenal. Really excited about him. Probably haven't had a shooter like him since Conley, similar type of mold, a little bit different, but similar. And then we're really close on somebody that I think's potentially going to really help us in the front court. And then, we got visits lined up for this weekend. We got the ribbon cutting ceremony this weekend for Timmons. And we got 2 guys visiting this weekend. I'll tell you this, there's not a shortage of guys wanting to come see it.
Yeah.
And we're going to be very selective in this. And look, I'll be honest with you, Dan. Everybody keeps calling me, checking on me, which I appreciate it. I'm as energized as I've ever been. And, I'm just some average D2 player. The guy decided to give an opportunity to lead a program and have fun with what I'm doing. And, I'm crazy enough to think that every year we can go win a championship and we can keep pushing the boundary and we can keep doing great things. But I'm not going to let this landscape, discourage me. I'm going to go out there and I don't think the campus has changed. I don't think the degrees changed. I don't think Greenville's changed. I don't think they canceled Timmons renovation. I don't think they took our net from us. I don't think they took the Virginia win from us. I think there's a lot of good still going on, and I'm going to charge ahead, and I'm going to put every single ounce of my being in to make sure that we continue to push this straight forward.
Well, we'll wrap it up with this. As someone who I know is motivated by challenges, this is a significant challenge, and I can see your motivation.
Yeah, I'll be careful how I answer that, but I think it's these are the defining like is it going to destroy you? Well, the weak-minded might think so. The Twitterverse followers might think so. The whole world right now is just waiting for bad news. So, I could see some people thinking that, is this going to develop us? Is this going to define us, right? We get to pick which one of those 3 we're going to do. Mm-hmm. And, I'm going to let it develop us. And you know what? Sometimes development can be hard, I think they purify gold through fire, and I think that there's times where the challenges, I think Dawn Staley, said it yesterday when she was referencing how hard it was when they lost in the Final Four last year. But, hard can get you to places that you just never thought you could get to because it pulls something out of you that's just unique. And, we can also be spoiled by success. I think you guys, the fan base knows me. I shoot it pretty straight. I think that sometimes you can think like, hey, we're just always going to have a great culture.
Mm-hmm. We've arrived.
Yeah, and I don't know. I arrive. I'm talking about more like, hey, we're always going to move the ball. Mm-hmm. That's what we do. Like, this is Furman basketball.
Yeah.
Or we always play connected. Like, nah, like it doesn't always just work like that. Like, you have to go make that happen. And I think if I could sum it all up, what I've learned a little bit is, I've got to be better as we navigate this. I know that there's things that I could have done better, specifically summer, fall, to do a better job forging our leadership. I didn't think our leadership was as good as it needed to be, and ultimately that's on me. But I think when you go through it and you look back at the last 2 years, 2 years ago we beat Virginia, we go to the tournament, we have this magical season, and one of them's calling me right now, right? Jalen Slauson. I mean, it's like a son to me, and it's just stuff you'll never forget. Like what we went through, the hard we went through, the triumph, doing stuff that like we'll probably appreciate later more than we do even now. But I've been joking with the staff about this a little bit. 2 years ago, you could kind of sum it up that everybody in our organization thought they were the reason why we were winning. Like from the players to the staff to the strength coach to the trainer to me to the assistants. Like, man, we're rolling, right? We're doing this. And then this year, fast forwarded, nobody was the reason we were losing. it was all that person's fault, and it was all his fault, and it was all that fault,
Yeah.
and like it didn't matter. Like nobody came and said, you know what, I got to be better. And I'm the first one, right? I've got to figure this out, and it is a fun challenge, and it's something that we're gonna figure out. And we're probably going to have to redefine ourselves in a few ways, but we're not going to lose identity. And I think that's what I told our team last week. I guess there was some internet scuttle that I was involved in some jobs or interviews, which was not accurate. And I'm not running from this. Like we're going to run right through this, and we're going to go enjoy the battle of figuring it out. And We've had the drought to overcome. We've had Timmons Arena to overcome. We've had, 30 years of no tradition to overcome. And, I mean, you and I have sat up here and we've talked about a lot of things to overcome. And I think when we all get on the other side of this and we're laying on the deathbed to make our way to the pearly gates, I think those are the moments that we're going to reflect on the most, are the ones where, you got a group of people. It wasn't singular. It wasn't one person. It wasn't one talent. It was those moments in life where you look back and you say the connection and the bond and the people that stood together worked hard enough and had a vision enough, strong enough to endure any challenge that they saw. And those are the moments that you're going to reflect on the most. And, I'm pretty dialed in on what we have to do to make sure we see the rainbow after the rain in this.
Well, we need to let you take important phone calls like those from Jalen Slauson and others. You want to do this again in about a month or so and just kind of encapsulate where we are?
We will do that. We'll have some recruiting updates by then, I'm sure, and have some staff updates. And we've had a couple staff get some big promotions that I'm really excited about, and obviously want to continue to, Jimmy Williams being a head coach and Jake Delaney having an opportunity to now go be an associate head coach at Gardner-Webb, which is pretty neat. And so Damon Parker just happened, the assistant, he was a GA under at Baylor, got the FAU job. And so he got pushed up in role and got pushed up financially. And so we'll have some staff updates as well. And, we'll have a few more additions at that point that we can discuss.
All right, sounds good, Bob. Thank you so much. I'm sure our fans appreciate you coming up and sharing not just a little bit about what's going on, but letting them see that the sky indeed is not falling, that everything is fine here at Furman University. We will be back with another edition, the regularly scheduled edition of Inside Furman Athletics, also this week with cross-country and track and field head coach Robert Gary. For Bob Richey and all of us at Furman, I'm Dan Scott, saying God bless you and so long, everybody.